Joan stared at the coffee mug in his hand. The steam long gone. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual, each second echoing the silence between him and Grace. She sat across the table, scrolling through her phone, her brow furrowed as if the world's problems resided in that tiny screen. "Late again tomorrow?" he asked, breaking the quiet. Grace didn't look up. "Client dinner. You know how it is." He did know, or at least he thought he did. For the past 3 months, her client dinners had multiplied, her excuses thinning like worn-out fabric. Last week, he'd found a receipt for a hotel bar downtown dated a night she claimed to be at a team-building seminar. When he'd asked, she'd laughed it off. Must have dropped it during lunch. Why the interrogation, Joan? Now he watched her tap out a message, her lips twitching at the screen. A familiar unease coiled in his gut. The office was empty when Joan returned early from his business trip. His flight, delayed by storms, had landed at midnight, but Grace hadn't answered his calls. The house felt colder, the air tinged with a scent he couldn't place. Something floral. For him, her perfume was vanilla. Upstairs, their bedroom door creaked. The bed was neatly made, but his eyes caught a glint beneath the dresser, a silver cufflink engraved with initials he didn't recognize. His hands trembled as he pocketed it. Downstairs, the garage door hummed open. Grace's heels clicked against the tile, her voice bright as she greeted the cat. "Long night?" Joan asked, leaning in the doorway. She froze, her coat halfway off. "Joan, I thought you were back tomorrow." "Plans changed." He held up the cufflink. "Found this upstairs." Grace blinked, then laughed, a sound too sharp. "Oh, that's from the charity gala. One of the donors dropped it. I meant to return it." She stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. "You look exhausted. Let's get some sleep." He wanted to believe her, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Days blurred. Joan began noticing patterns, Grace's sudden interest in yoga classes, her insistence on handling the grocery runs alone. Once, he'd driven past her gym only to find the parking lot empty. When he confronted her, she'd snapped, "God, Joan, I switched studios. Stop tracking me." The fight that followed was volcanic. She'd slept on the couch, and in the morning her side of the bed smelled like rain and a cologne he'd never bought. It was a text that broke him. Grace had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. The screen lit up with a notification. Unknown number. Tonight. Usual place. Joan's throat tightened. He typed a reply before he could think. Joan posing as Grace. "Can't wait." The response was immediate. "Unknown number." Sweet. For 12. 8 p.m., don't with a red dress this time. The shower stopped. Joan slipped the phone back, his mind racing. At 7:30 p.m., Grace kissed his cheek, her lips chilly. Book club's running late. Don't wait up. He waited 10 minutes before tailing her taxi downtown. The Crescent Hotel loomed ahead, its marble facade glowing under streetlights. Joan's hands clenched the steering wheel as Grace strode inside, her emerald dress swirling. Not red. Sweet. For 12. The elevator ride felt endless. Outside the door, laughter spilled into the hallway. A man's voice low and familiar. Joan's blood turned to ice. He knocked. The door swung open. The man in the doorway wasn't a stranger. "Daniel." Joan choked out, staring at his brother-in-law. Daniel's grin faltered, his hand still gripping the door frame. Behind him, Grace stood frozen, a champagne flute slipping from her fingers. It shattered against the carpet, the sound jagged. "Joan, wait," she began, but he was already pushing past Daniel, his eyes scanning the room. Rose petals lit up the bed. A half-empty bottle of wine perched on the nightstand. A laptop glowed on the desk. Its screen split between a spreadsheet and a video call paused mid-frame. A woman's face, familiar, stared back, her lips parted in surprise. Claire, Grace's business partner. "What the hell is this?" Joan's voice cracked. Grace stepped forward, her composure fraying. "It's not what you think, we practicing," Daniel cut in, rubbing his neck. "For the merger pitch. The investors want a dynamic presentation. Claire's idea." He gestured to the screen. She said we needed chemistry. John's laugh was hollow. Chemistry? You're in a hotel suite with rose petals and wine. Don't insult me. Claire's voice crackled through the speakers. John, let me explain. The Kensington deal, they expect a certain image. A power couple. Daniel's been standing in for you during rehearsals because you've been unavailable. Unavailable? He turned to Grace. You told me you were handling this alone. She flinched. I try to include you, but you've been distant since Mom died. Daniel offered to help. It spiraled. The room tilted. 6 months ago. His mother's funeral. Grace begging him to grieve with her. Him shutting down. Burying himself in work. The receipts, the lies. Had they all been about this? Daniel cleared his throat. The pitch is tomorrow. If we land Kensington, the firm triples its value. We're this close, Joan. So you fake an affair to secure a deal? John's fists clenched. And the cufflink? The perfume. Grace opened her purse, pulling out a small vial. Samples from the hotel spa. Daniel's cufflink was part of the role play. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but you were so checked out. A part of him wanted to believe the absurdity. But the cracks were too wide. Why the secrecy? Why not just ask me? Because you have said no. Grace's eyes glistened. You've been a ghost, John. I needed you present. This was the only way to get your attention. The words hung sharp and suffocating. John glanced at the laptop. Claire's frozen smirk taunting him. You're lying, he whispered. Daniel's phone buzzed. He palmed it, reading the screen. Kensington CEO just moved the meeting to tonight. They're downstairs. Chaos erupted. Grace scrambled for her heels. Claire barking orders through the laptop. John stood motionless, the pieces slotting into an uglier truth. The merger wasn't just business. Kensington CEO was Margaret Voss, his mother's oldest rival, the woman who sued her estate over the will. You're partnering with Voss? John hissed. After what she did to M.O.? Grace froze. This isn't about the past. It's survival. She's using you to get to me. He grabbed the laptop, jabbing a finger at Claire. You knew. This was never about chemistry. It's revenge. Claire's mask slipped. Your mother stole from Margaret. Now she's balancing the scales. The screen went black. In the elevator, Grace gripped his arm. John, please. Come downstairs. Help me fix this. He shook her off. You sold us out to a vulture. For what? A paycheck. For us, her voice broke. The medical bills, the debt, we're drowning. Margaret offered a way out if I proved loyalty. The doors opened to the lobby. Margaret Voss stood by the fireplace, her cane tapping like a metronome. Her gaze locked onto John, venom thinly veiled. Ah! The prodigal son arrives. This ends now, John said. Margaret smiled. Too late. The papers are signed. Though I'll admit, your wife's performance was persuasive. She nodded to Daniel. A convincing substitute. Grace recoiled. Substitute? Did you think I'd trust you? Margaret scoffed. The Rayall deal required leverage. Daniel provided it. She tossed a photo on the table. Grace and Daniel entwined in the suite, hours before John's arrival. You set me up, Grace whispered. Collateral, Margaret corrected. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to dismantle. The ride home was silent. Grace stared out the window, tears streaking her mascara. John's mind braced. Margaret's game was clear. Bankrupt him, humiliate Grace, erase his mother's legacy. But the photo, Daniel's been working with her all along. He said finally, the rehearsals, the hotel, it was a trap, and you walked right in. Grace's laugh was brittle. I thought I was saving us. He pulled into the driveway, exhaustion weighing his bones. Inside, the cat wound between their legs, oblivious. Grace hesitated at the bedroom door. Where do we go from here? John eyed the suitcase in the corner, half-packed from his aborted trip. I don't know. But as she slept, he crept to her desk, logging into her email, threads with Margaret, drafts of resignation letters, encrypted files. One folder stood out, insurance policies. He clicked.